So while we're waiting for a few more to log on, we just want to extend our happy holidays to you for the Christmas and Hanukkah season. And it's just crazy that we're winding down 2023. Okay, I think it's 11:30 Eastern time. I wanted to, first of all, just thank Northrop Grumman Federal Credit Union for another year of partnership, which has spanned 2+ decades. So we're delighted to have the partnership, and to those of you who are logging in, it could be from the West Coast, it could be from Florida. Our association with Northrop Grumman remains strong, and please let us know if we can be of assistance as you're preparing for your retirement. For our clients who are tuning in today, we thank you again for your long-term partnership, and we are privileged to work with you and your families. And once again, just happy holidays to everybody. So today's presentation is about Social Security. It can be a subject that we go deep on, and we do that in individual or when we're meeting with couples. So today is really going to be from that 10,000-foot view, but we want to hopefully give you some nuggets that you can walk away from. So my name is Margie Cosmerl, and this is Blue Heron's 26th year. Again, when I say these time frames out loud, it's kind of crazy. So and delighted to have Sarah here with us as well today to dive into Social Security.
Very good. Well, again, thank you everyone for taking some time out of your morning. We will go ahead and jump in. The title, Social Security, Get What's Yours. Certainly you have paid into the Social Security system, so we certainly want to maximize that benefit, strategize. And again, as Margie said, Social Security, it can be complex, but we hope that this webinar, you take away some tidbits. And if you have some situation-specific questions, we are more than happy to assist and to be an ear and a sounding board there. So contact information will be at the end of the slide deck. Feel free to shoot those emails over. So today we will be looking at when and how much for Social Security. When, that is, it's a big question for many retirees, pre-retirees. When should I be taking it? And again, it's going to be situation dependent, but kind of the one thing we say is, when you turn 62 and that's the first chance you have at it, don't jump on it. Let it be a conversation. And today we hope that with all we discuss, it will lend to that idea of pushing off and waiting because of the different reasons we give you today. Work, continuing to work and claiming your benefit, that has an impact, and there are considerations there. Taxation, Margie will touch on how much of Social Security is taxable, as well as what we can be thinking about as all these income sources come together. Spousal benefit, for those of you that are married, that's going to be a consideration, as well as ex-spousal benefits. And then again, there will just be some other things that hopefully you take away and are some considerations. So we will start off here by going back in time to 1935. That is when our Social Security system here in the United States was created, and it was created in a response to the Great Depression. And the kind of hope was that it would be a supplement to income. It wouldn't be an all-supporting income source. The full retirement age at that point, when Social Security was created here in the US, was 65. Coincidentally, or not so coincidentally, the life expectancy was also age 65. As we fast forward to 1940, this is when the payments started for Social Security. So for those of you that are maybe trivia buffs, the first person to receive Social Security was Ida Mae Fuller in 1940. She paid about $24 into Social Security. She ended up living until age 100, and she got $22,000 in benefits paid out to her. So I would say she certainly got her money's worth there. Then we move forward to 1965, and that's when Medicare was signed into law. Again, another program to help the social safety net. So in addition and complementary to the Social Security system. We've had changes along the way, one being that you can claim as early as 62. You don't have to wait until that full retirement age. And then in some cases, waiting all the way out until age 70. In 2009, that is when Social Security increased to 66. So not a huge jump from 65, but again, increasing that year. And for those of you that have the birthdays that we'll dive into in just a moment, that age then increased again to 67. All right, so who is eligible to start collecting the benefits? So you must be at least age 62. And again, Margie will touch on widowers and widows that have different implications, but age 62 is that first age we are able to collect. You must have accrued 40 credits of coverage and paid into payroll taxes. And if you're thinking, I don't have those 40 credits and you're married, that brings us down to this next bullet point of you may be eligible for a benefit based on your spouse's work history or your ex's spouse work history. And again, we'll touch on the parameters of timeframes and if you've remarried and so on, and later in the presentation. Lastly, it is going to be based off your highest 35 years of earnings. So for those of you that are working beyond those 35 years, we think way back and what your first job may have been. And if you can think, well, how much was I earning then? That all goes into the equation. But as we continue to work those earlier years or lower income years, and maybe there are some in the middle when you stayed home to raise kids and such, those lower years are going to drop off and those higher years are what's going to go into the equation. Know your benefit. For some of you, maybe either of these screens are looking familiar, the physical Social Security statement, or perhaps the online My Social Security portal. We highly, highly, highly encourage you to pull your Social Security estimates. For some of you, you may be saying, I used to receive the mail and now I'm not. Social Security does send the physical mail paper out to those 60 and older that have not created a portal. So if you've created a portal and you've pulled estimates, that's probably why you're not receiving the hard copy. But again, whether you have worked with us or you've gleaned help from us, we have certainly encouraged you to pull these figures. And whether retirement is 10 years away, it's a year away, or you're already in retirement and you haven't yet started Social Security, we would certainly encourage you to pull these numbers because, as we'll touch on, it makes up such a big piece of your retirement income. In addition, whether you have friends and family that are receiving Social Security, with inflation and cost of living adjustments, they have seen increases, but increases have also gone into the calculation. So you might be pleasantly surprised to see where those benefits are if you haven't checked them for a while. And certainly just creating an account to look now to make sure work history looks right and they have the right social on file and your birthday is correct, because all those things you would much rather address years out from retirement or years out from starting Social Security than when you're trying to turn on those benefits. So we will include, whether it's a follow-up email, we will send the ssa.gov website, which that's where you can go pull these estimates. You can certainly call the Social Security Administration. And if you like to go in person, you can even make an appointment to go and sit down with someone to go over these estimates. All right, retirement income. Before I touch on the Social Security bucket with 40%, I want to draw your attention to the right side and these other sources that go into retirement income. And again, whether you have worked with us in the past or you're new to Blue Heron, something that we encourage our clients and those we work with is to start to pull together all these pieces, because it's so important for us as well as yourself to see how they all come together. And when we're working and we have a paycheck, we're saving into the 401k. Maybe we know there's an old 401k out there. Maybe there's a pension. And we're just not sure how it all lines up. But as we get closer to retirement, as we get closer to starting Social Security, it becomes that much more important to get a handle on how all these puzzle pieces, so to speak, come together and how they work together. So just kind of briefly going over the list here, 401k, or perhaps you have a 403b plan, looking under the hood just a little bit more. In many plans, you have the option to save into a Roth 401k or a pre-tax 401k. That could be a whole nother discussion, but certainly that's something that we're talking with clients about, how to strategize. Having, yes, you have pre-tax dollars that you've saved into all these years, but could it possibly behoove you to also be saving into Roth to build this tax-free bucket? Pension, for those of you that have the pension benefit, employee stock, HSA and FSA. Again, HSA is somewhat underutilized in many cases. It's really the only place we're getting this triple tax-free going in. Yes, you can invest those funds. Growth on funds is then again tax-free if you take those funds out to use for qualified healthcare expenses. Once again, tax-free. So if you're not utilizing HSA, certainly take a look. We also have FSA here, IRAs, just like the 401k. There's going to be Roth, and then there's going to be a traditional pre-tax IRA. How are those working together? Mutual funds, annuities, other investments, insurance, government pensions, and so on. And then we finally get down to the Social Security, the kind of the meat and the reason why we are all on this call today. Social Security is meant to make up approximately 40% of your pre-retirement income, and that's assuming you're trying to replace 70% of that income. Again, what Margie and I and at Blue Heron, what we are trying to look at is, what does it cost to live your life? What are your goals for retirement? What do you want that to look like? What is that going to cost? Because all of these come together, and certainly, sure, Social Security could make up 40% of someone's retirement income in one picture, but someone else who has a completely different lifestyle, that could maybe make up only 30%. So again, these are all important things to be thinking about, as well as the tax implications. All right, Social Security, full retirement age, also known as FRA. Maybe you knew that, didn't know that, but commonly what it's referred to. As we talked about when we looked at the timeline, full retirement age moved from 66 to now 67 gradually. So if you'll just take a moment here, finding your birth year and then finding your full retirement age. And again, that's just a really great goal to shoot for of, this is my full benefit. This is the amount I am not having reduced. And this is the free and clear amount, so to speak, as we get into the other implications of claiming early. Claiming at 62. So this is the first time that you are able to claim Social Security again. If you will take a look here on the left-hand side, find your birthday, find your full retirement age, and based on that, if you were to claim at 62, this is the benefit reduction. That is a huge haircut that you are taking to claim early. It's going to give you the smallest monthly check. Yes, you're getting it early, but again, there's other things to think about. For those of you that want to continue to work and you are thinking about turning on Social Security at 62, as Margie will touch on later, there are penalties associated with that. Even those that we have clients that say, I'm retiring, I'm done working, I'm never going back. And then maybe a really sweet contracting job comes up. Maybe the part-time job that you've always wanted to do but didn't have time to do comes up and it's more lucrative than you thought. There's thresholds to how much you can earn before being penalized. So something to really be thinking about. Another big consideration, if you have the larger of the Social Securities in your marriage, that higher amount is going to stay on when one passes away. So if you are taking a 30% haircut, that is not just for your life, that is for your surviving spouse's life, if that's the Social Security that stays. So again, just another consideration. Lastly, may face benefit taxation sooner. If you're turning on this income stream before you need to, yes, there are taxes associated with that. Even as an example, maybe you need $1,000 extra a month to help bridge that gap between your income and expenses, but you're turning on Social Security at 62, and let's say that amount is $3,000 a month. You have this $2,000 extra that you don't necessarily need to be paying taxes on. And so that's, again, conversations that we're having on how we can maximize it, not to mention the growth that you're having by holding off. All right, and then we have age 70. This is the last age that we would want to hold off on in many cases, in almost all cases. You're not getting rewarded for continuing to hold off beyond 70. The increase from your full retirement age to age 70 is 8%. This is going to give you the highest monthly check. There is no penalty for employment if you decide to work. So once you hit that full retirement age, again, that's your free and clear age. You can earn as much as you want. You're not going to be penalized on that side. And again, it's that nice 8% increase. For those that can hold off until 70, it doesn't have to be a full retirement age or 70. It's just something we know we have in our back pocket if we go through difficult markets, or perhaps one spouse retires earlier than initially planned for and there needs to be an income source. We know we have it there. And again, it's increasing each month. Yes, there's that 8% annual amount, but it is increasing monthly. So it's conversation to be had when we turn that on. We don't have to necessarily wait just until age 70.
So thanks, Sarah. There are a lot of great takeaways from what Sarah already talked about. I'd say that this is probably the number one question that we hear on a weekly basis, and that is, when should I take my benefit? And Sarah was telling you about how all those different pieces, and that's from the 401k to the pension piece to the retirement, other maybe 457s, mutual funds, IRAs, and then the Social Security. So all of those are pieces of the retirement income puzzle. And the Social Security, we fully understand it looks like the proverbial low-hanging fruit. Well, why shouldn't I jump on it and take it at age 62? It's there. I paid into the system all these years. And Sarah said it before, I'll repeat it. We just ask for you to just put the brakes on that for just a minute and to have a conversation. We are more than willing to chat it out with you. We may come back to the same conclusion that it does make sense to take it at 62, but more times than not, we're going to suggest holding off to full retirement age. And we have this, again, debate ongoing with clients. Some are firmly in the camp of waiting until full retirement age. Others are in the camp of, I'm going to wait till age 70. And then there are those who want to jump on it as soon as they possibly can. So there are considerations all along the way here. And that's what we want to take some time to share with you. Sarah showed you the benefits increasing, and the same thing holds true even from 62 till full retirement age. Those benefits are increasing month over month. Now there is a break-even point, and that's somewhere in the 78 to 80 time frame. We can agree with you that, well, if you take those benefits and take them early, that accumulated value may actually exceed what it may be if you were to die early. And no one knows what that time frame will be. But and again, we hear all the comments from those who were having meetings with or calls, and maybe there are some health issues that would lend to the unlikelihood of reaching full retirement age or that break-even point. So there definitely are considerations. We just want to make sure that we're turning over every rock as we're looking at claiming timeframes. So let's talk about working while collecting. And Yes, we have absolutely run into the situation where we've heard, oh, I'm never going to go back to work. And then, and especially in today's economy, I mean, we have a tight labor market, and there's a lot of, I'll call the baby boomer brain power that is retirement age. And even speaking to our partnership with Northrop Grumman and working with employees there, as well as other corporations or small business, if you have too much of that seniority or experience walking out the door, then that may leave just a gap in terms of experience. So there is enticement, we're seeing it on a pretty regular basis, to draw those retirees back in on their terms. So what we have to keep in mind on the Social Security front is that there's penalties as it relates to income. So what you'll see here for 2023, if you go back to work and you make more than $21,240, then for every $2 over that amount, the federal government is going to withhold $1 from benefits. Now, you do get it back. I'm not suggesting it's gone forever, but then you are dealing with the federal government, and it's not just a give me, hey, I want my penalty back. Then you run into the federal government determining how many post-full retirement account benefit checks it will take until that penalty is paid. So moving ahead to your full retirement age, your FRA, again, we've got all kinds of little acronyms, so FRA, and you'll see here, if you do retire in that year, but prior to the age, there's still some potential withholding. Now that earnings amount bumps up to the $56,520, so it very well may not come into play, but just be aware that it is a possibility. And then again, it's a matter of recouping those dollars that were withheld. There are earnings tests that apply. I'm going to just take an ever so quick brief pause because I do see a question and a raised hand. For compliance purposes, we are able to only take those questions after the presentation. If you'll email us, and we'll put all that contact information out there, and we'll either get back to you and answer the question, or if it's a tough question, we'll get with a specialist on Social Security and get you an answer. So more than happy to receive your questions, but because this is recorded, we have to stick with the presentation as it is. Thank you for that brief interruption. Okay, so now full retirement age. Sarah showed you the different levels, and it's 66 and some months, likely for those of you who are in attendance today. That's why you're listening in. So now you've reached that full retirement age. You can work as much as you want, make as much as you want, and there is no withholding of that penalty. So that, again, is a good reason for us to focus on that full retirement age. It's not to say that, maybe we're looking at age 64 and there is no way somebody says that they're going to go back to work. Okay, we'll keep that in mind. But I do want to just once again reiterate the importance of planning if you're married in a relationship for two. This is not just a sole decision here, because by claiming early and running into those discounted benefits, that could very well affect the spouse. All right, so we're going to talk about taxation of Social Security. Many times we'll be in a meeting going through retirement income planning, and across the table, somebody will say, "What do you mean I'm going to be taxed on this?" For most on this call, there is the likelihood that 85% of your Social Security benefits will be taxed. it's based upon these provisional incomes that are listed here. So a little different on the single side versus the married side. But you can see that pretty quickly, based on the provisional income formula of adjusted gross income, plus that tax exempt income, think about your municipal bond funds, and then half of your Social Security benefit. That's what the formula is based upon. And thus, more than likely, you are going to be taxed on Social Security benefits. I look at it the flip side. Thank you very much. You're giving me 15% of it tax-free. From a state level, there's 38 states that don't tax Social Security. So just kind of a fun fact, because we have those on today's presentation from across the country, I would highly recommend that you take a look at that list to see if your state is one that's not going to tax or one that is going to tax. So we've been doing a Social Security presentation for a long time because there are so many nuances to it. But up until recently, there were a lot more strategies that could be employed. And that's just not the case anymore. So I'm going to walk through here, and not to say that there's still not some strategies that need to be and should be considered, but the federal government has taken away a fair amount of those where we could be really strategic. I can think of many a time going back to the tax law change in 2015, where we would make some recommendations such as file and suspend, but those are no longer options, and it's based on certain birth years here. So let's talk about spousal benefits. I mentioned it before. If you are married, it is not solely about you making a decision, because when whomever passes away first, then the surviving spouse is going to be the recipient of the higher of these Social Security benefits. So again, we always are thinking well into the future, the here and now, such as how are we going to fulfill our clients' needs for income, but also looking out into the future and looking at these decisions based on when one or the other spouse may expire. So if there is not a work history to support one's own spousal benefit, then that spouse could receive up to 50% of their husband or wife's benefit. Now, again, this has gotten a little different in today's world. If you have your own work history, you have your own benefits, it kind of has gone out the window as far as claiming 50% and then waiting. If you apply for your own benefits and your spouse has already applied for benefits, then you are deemed, and deemed is a big Social Security vocabulary word today, you are deemed to be claiming your own. So again, and we'll look at an example in just a minute, looking at one's own versus the 50% side. So to receive the spousal benefit, the other spouse must be collecting a benefit. Again, this has come about just over the last, not even 10 years, some pretty significant changes there. If you are divorced, then you can claim on your ex-spouse if you were married for 10 years and you're not currently remarried. In addition, you have to keep in mind that you have to be 62 or older to collect, be divorced at least 2 years if you're going to try to collect on your ex-spouse. Now remember, we said this before, we'll say it again, if you're intending to collect benefits prior to your full retirement age, then you are taking a pretty significant discount to those benefits. But we also acknowledge that there could be a very serious need for benefits. How many times have we heard, especially for generations maybe older than ours, that you know, they're reliant solely on Social Security for income. So we want to acknowledge that in some cases, Social Security is that primary retirement income, which is why it was created in the first place. However, life expectancies today are 84 for women, a little bit less for men. So the formulas haven't exactly kept up with life expectancy is my point there, and we'll touch on that at the end. If you are a widow or widower, then you have some additional options. One of those is that you could collect as early as age 60, and it can be up to 100% of that deceased spouse or ex-spouse's benefit. So in terms of options, it really is the widow or widower who has a bit more on how those benefits and when those benefits can be taken. So let's take a look at a case study here. This is Sam and Ann, and what you'll see at age 62, if they decided to collect early, then you're taking, once again, this discount on the options, as opposed to waiting until full retirement age. So what we're considering here is look at the spousal benefit and look at it at full retirement age. And then if we're pushing off until age 70, then again, this was frozen, that spousal benefit, at the 50% of the spouse's income. Or what's showing up as being a higher benefit would be if Sam just held off taking his own benefit until age 70. Now, this is where we will get strategic here at Blue Heron. It may be that early in retirement, when we're looking at the big picture and we're able to, again, project out into the future. For the vast majority on this call, you have saved and saved well into your retirement plans through work. And of that savings, your pre-tax bucket is pretty full, because either you didn't get onto the Roth contribution until that came out, which was, around 20 years ago, believe it or not, or you just disregarded that Roth option. So the pre-tax money has built over the years. When you are retired, and maybe some are fortunate to have pensions, and we look at the expenses, how we're going to bridge that gap, it might not be necessary for both spouses to jump on their Social Security. It may be that having some Social Security income from one spouse is going to suffice. So it's kind of that question, well, why generate more taxable income if it's truly not necessary? And without getting too into the weeds, I will just share what has become kind of a common thread with those who we're meeting with, and that is that future required minimum distributions, even though that age has been pushed out to age 73 or 75, that we call it RMD. Again, remember all these little acronyms. Required minimum distribution is going to be a significant amount, more significant, and a higher amount that may be necessary. So in those cases, and this is not a recommendation, this is just to raise awareness, it may be applicable to take some retirement income from those sources once again, holding off for the benefits on Social Security to increase more. So that's probably enough for today's session. Again, we dive deep into this in our meetings. For those of you who we are currently working with, this is why we keep asking for the updated Social Security information, especially coming off of 2023 and 2022, where there was a big COLA increase. For those over 60, you are experiencing that with your benefits, even if you're not taking it. I mentioned Social Security strategies. Yes, it's important to take a look at, especially with a married couple, or if there's intention to work, and why delaying versus taking early, all these different considerations. Some of those options, those have gone by the wayside. So this restricted application really only applies to those who are 69 and older, who may not have already started their benefits. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but that's when at full retirement age that there could be a claim on the spouse and delaying taking their own benefit. But remember that word deemed. Deemed is where we are in today's world. So for those who haven't started taking benefits yet, and you're looking at, do I take mine? Does my husband take his? If he starts his and you're looking to take half of his, you are deemed to be eligible for your own benefits. Then it's a look to see which is the higher of those, and that is the benefit that you'll receive. Do-overs and suspending benefits. These are still available in today's world where this comes up. And I'm thinking of a client who was in that camp. I am done working. I don't want to hear the alarm clock. I want to play with the grandkids. I'm going to fill my day, until he was recruited into doing some consulting. He had already, kind of much to our chagrin, he had started taking Social Security benefits and then changed his mind because of the penalty situation. He wanted to stop and do over, in which case he had to pay back the benefits, pay back any tax withholding that occurred, and pay back any Medicare that may have occurred. So again, it's one of these like, be careful before you set this in motion. And then suspending benefits could be done once you reach full retirement age, if you're looking to get that added increase later. Again, I cannot think of a situation where this has come up, but perhaps it would affect you. This too is a hot topic. My buttons can get pushed on this pretty quickly and pretty easily because this has been the can that has been kicked down the road for a very, very long time. So I would even beseech you to reach out to your Congress people and tell them to get on this and get this addressed, because without making some modifications in 2034, then it's projected that Social Security is to be depleted with only 77% of an individual's benefit payable. So I don't like to get political, but it is political. And no one has been willing to take ownership of making the necessary changes. Now, years ago, I heard a speaker say, who was not a US citizen, you Americans will exhaust any other option before you actually tackle the big ones. And I think this falls into that category. So here are some things that can be done, and that could be the change in the COLA. For 2023, it was 9%. For 2024, I believe it's 3.2%. So there have been those modifications. Now, there have also been years where there has been zero increase to benefits and Medicare has gone up. So there's actually been those times where there's been some decrease. We could fix it by reducing the Social Security benefit. But I think that these last two are probably the most applicable and warranted, and that is to increase in the FICA taxes. So between your Social Security withheld from your paychecks and what your employer has to pay towards your benefits, that there could be a potential offset to this, what's coming down the pike, Social Security to be depleted. And going way back to the start of the presentation, as Sarah said, when the whole Social Security system was created, that life expectancy was age 65. So other than Ida Mae, who lived to 100 and fully experienced all her benefits, the goal was not for it to have to pay out for now decades if those are reaching their average life expectancy. So it would stand to reason to push that retirement age out again. It would also stand to reason not to cap on income Social Security, but we have to voice our concern, in my opinion. I'm also going to hold up this book, okay, Social Security Made Simple, and this is a really quick read, but you can really flip through here. I take a look at it because there's a lot of moving parts to Social Security. So when we have a situation come up, we have resources through our financial institution partnerships, but I also kind of pull out this book. Again, Social Security Made Simple by Mike Piper. And AARP is another good source. There's a lot of good sources out there. You just want to make sure your questions are answered. And in closing here, again, please know that Blue Heron Financial Group is here to help assist in any way we can. Evaluating your retirement income needs, it's what we do each and every day. And then work on strategizing how to meet those retirement income needs. Definitely you want to go online and create, if you haven't already, www.ssa, Social Security Administration.gov, and create your online account. It will ask for things like your mother's maiden and your last earnings history. And then you've got your online account. You can look back at all your employment. I think it's kind of a fun little walk through your own personal history. I look back at my first job and I made a whopping like $500, let's say. I don't remember, but point is that pizza shop shows up there until it drops off. As my working years continue, those come off of the calculation. Determining that filing timeline. That's what we spent a fair amount of time looking at. Yes, you can collect as early as 62, but what are the ramifications for that versus holding off to a full retirement age? And then eventually that application for benefits. So clients tell me it has been a pretty easy process to do online. And if you like that one-on-one, scheduling an appointment is recommended so that you don't just show up at the Social Security office and have to sit there for a couple hours until it's your turn. Once again, we do hear good things out of working directly with those Social Security representatives. However, note of caution, I also hear where there is a weighing in of what you should do by a Social Security representative or even by a family member or a coworker when they're not looking at the big picture. So that's super important to make sure that when I say the big picture, all the moving parts, all the taxable income that is going to come in now versus later. And it's all of those moving parts that help to guide us towards our recommendations to our clients. So that was a lot in a short period of time. We do want to thank you because it just seems, especially at this time of year, that time is moving at warp speed. Some of you may have heard Sarah and I chatting a little bit about our Christmas preparations. Just does not seem to be enough time in the day, but we do wish you all the happiest, healthiest of holidays. Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah. And oops, let me go back. Some disclaimers here. The presentation is based upon reliable source material and believed to be correct. However, it is subject to change at any time without warnings. Investors should consider consulting with tax professionals as well as your financial advisor. And then lastly, here is our contact information. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out. Debbie is our point person. She'll make sure those questions get out to Sarah and to myself. And as mentioned before, we will lean in, but we also can pull in the specialist in the Social Security field to help us as well. So thank you to Northrop Grumman for our long-term partnership. Thank you to our clients. We love working with you and becoming part of your lives and part of your family. And for those who don't know us, please feel free to check us out on our website, listed right there, www.blueheronfinancialgroup.net. And with that, I think we'll close. Again, thank you so much for your attention today, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the new year for our next presentation.
Thank you, everyone.